Hi everyone, it's Dallas here. I just wanted to give a video update. I haven't had a voice for quite a few weeks now. I spent some time in hospital a few weeks ago with a collapsed lung and nearly 3 litres of fluid that had to be drained off my right rib cage. I haven't made a video like this before, but I wanted to make this and give an update, and I'm going to see if my son can put it up on the GoFundMe page so that, well, first of all, everyone can get an update on where things are at. And I plan on making more videos like this. Forgive me, I'm not a videographer or anything like that, and this is my first time I've ever tried to make a video like this. So, yeah, they might get better along the way, but we'll just see how we go. I've made a whole lot of notes, so like I said, it's not a professional video. I'm just speaking from the heart and letting you know what my journey's been like since I found out about having cancer back in April of 2022. So here goes. Okay, so first and foremost, I believe that Jesus Christ is my personal Lord and Saviour, and God is my healer. Medicines and all those sorts of things are great, and they're really good to help us get our health back on track. But at the end of the day, I see that my healing is going to come from God and God alone at the end of the day. Everything else is secondary. Before all this happened, I was a very overweight guy. I wasn't really watching my health that great. And since April last year, I've probably dropped somewhere between 40 to 45 kilograms. So while I don't see cancer as a blessing, it certainly gave me a wake-up call to really wake up to myself and start looking after myself a lot better. With a little bit of background, during all the COVID lockdowns, I think around June 2021, I started getting some really weird, I don't know, like cramps or something like that around my belly button area. And they would come and go. They weren't frequent, but they became a lot more frequent around April of 2022, to the point where it felt like somebody was stabbing me in the guts with a knife. And, I'd have to lie in a fetal position. And 2 years prior, I'd had a hernia repair, and in my mind, something must have gone wrong with that. So I went to the doctor and asked if he could get me back in for an ultrasound. So I did that around April. They did the ultrasound, and then the lady that was doing it said, "Look, I'm just going to speak to the doctor for a minute." And she came back and said, "Look, we want to do a CT scan on you," which they did. And then after that all finished, she said, "When you get home, make sure you call your doctor straight away," which I did. And then that evening, I did get a call back from my local doctor, and he's a lovely guy, Singaporean chap, and I guess doing something over the phone is not always the easiest thing. And he says, "Oh, Dallas, we got your scans. Yes, they found 6 tumours, and it looks like you have cancer, lymphoma. Do you have any questions?" And it's like, whoa, okay, that's a pretty big thing to swallow. And that was the beginning of where things were at. So the first thing I did after that, I emailed the scan results to our pastor from our church, Pastor Bob Cotton, and just to keep him in the loop, let him know what has transpired. And keep in mind, I've only known this guy, Pastor Bob, probably for about 2 or 3 weeks. We'd only just started going to the church up in Maitland. And, I wasn't expecting anything to happen. I just thought maybe he could pray for me. So the next thing I did the following morning, I remember over the years seeing a fairly, what you call a controversial doctor on Google. They referred to him as Dr. Pot, and his name is Dr. Andrew Catalaris, and I thought, I have a feeling I need to contact this guy. I know he's helped people with cancer before, and maybe he might be able to help me in the starting journey that I've got. So I spent about 3 hours on Google that following day looking for the guy. Couldn't find him anywhere. So fast forward about 3 hours later, about 1 p.m, I get a phone call from Pastor Bob. So, "Mate, I'm sorry to hear about what your scans have shown, and if there's anything we can do, let me know." And I said, "Well, look, Bob, I'm really hoping to try and attack this in the most natural way possible. And he stopped me there and he said, "Oh, Dallas, you'd like to meet somebody that I know." And I said, "Oh, who's that?" And he said, "Have you ever heard of a guy called Dr. Andrew Catalara?" So I was like, "You've got to be kidding me. Like, what are the chances of that?" So, so I went in and I ended up having a consult with Dr. Andrew, and we talked about diet. He basically broke down cancer. He dumbed it right down for me to actually understand what it is. So, so that I could understand, because to me it was just this monster, a myth of just death, and I couldn't really work out where I was going to navigate it. So around that same time, I also went to go and see a professor at one of the main hospitals here in Sydney, and he talked to me about the tests that I'd need, and I actually mentioned to him that I was scheduled to go on a short vacation with my wife in a couple of weeks, and at the time he said, "It's not going to happen, buddy." And I was like, "Right, okay." And so he wanted me to get all these tests, blood tests, bone marrow biopsies and tumour biopsies and PET scans and all these sorts of things. And I have to admit, going in there, I was overwhelmed. I don't know if I was terrified, I was just numb. And so I got the blood tests, and I don't do needles that well, so I went into a bit of a panic state, and basically just forgot about handing in all the other forms. And I also made it clear in the appointment that I had with this professor that the following day I was not able to make any appointments because it was the day before the Easter long weekend. Well, I said the following week I can come in and do all the tests that you want me to do. But either I didn't communicate that clearly or he didn't listen. They booked me in for a bone marrow biopsy at 8 a.m. the next morning, which was impossible for me to go to. So I let his staff know about that. And that was the start of a pretty shaky relationship. And what I was finding was, it might just be part of his training, but what I was finding was that there was a lot of fear being driven toward me, and also, in this case, guilt. He said, "Look, we cancelled 2 people's appointment to get you in. I hope you feel really bad about that." And in all honesty, I didn't feel bad about it because I made it clear I couldn't go. But that was the start of our relationship. Anyway, the following week I got a bone marrow biopsy. I don't recommend that to anyone. It's a pretty barbaric practice. But that's what happened, and they got the results, and thankfully they didn't find any cancer cells in the bone marrow. My wife and I decided we would go on holidays, so we did, and that didn't go down too well with the professor. So we had our holiday, which went for about 10 days. We got back, and his assistant wrote to us to say, "What are you doing about these other tests?" And because there'd been a few emails go back and forth, and I could just see that the patient-doctor relationship wasn't off to a good start. And I just said to his assistant, "Look, with all due respect, I'm not going to go any further with this. I've really tried to make it a rule in my life not to make decisions based on fear or guilt. And so far with the professor, I feel like that's what I've had happen. And I have no disrespect towards the guy. He was probably just looking after my best interest, but I couldn't operate that way. So we parted company. Around May, I got in touch with a great health group called BN2 Health. That's the letter B, the letter N, the number 2, the word health, up at Long Jetty here in the Greater Sydney, or up in the central coast of Sydney. And I started to go through the process of, just doing some health consults and getting some IV vitamin infusions and those sorts of things. And that pretty much carried on until about September 2022. Then I got a new CT scan just to see how things were going. And to my surprise, most of the things were fairly stable compared to the scans back in April, so that was good. But there had been a few little changes. And when I say little, I mean millimetre changes in the sizes of the tumours and things like that. So then I thought, come October, I thought it might be time just to go and consult with a new blood cancer specialist, which I did. And I started that. I booked in and got in to see them, I think, late October. So they organised some PET scans also to get a tumour biopsy. And again, that's not a really fun process. It involved getting a needle through my back, and it was like firing a harpoon or something at the large lymph node. And that one was about I think 11 centimetres by 6 centimetres in size. And then the PET scan revealed that where all the cancers were known, but it looked like it also had spread a little bit into, the thoracic area and also into the lower part of my neck. So then by December I found out, because the tests had been done, that the type of cancer that I've got is called, it's a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma called follicular lymphoma, and it is at the advanced stage. So I took the Christmas period and the New Year period to think it over, because being a blood cancer specialist, their training is to do chemotherapy and immunotherapy. And again, I never thought to myself that it'd be something I'd want to do. If it's part of the plan with everything else I'm doing as a last resort, well, maybe that's the case, but that's where we're at. So I met up again in January, and we discussed a possible way forward. So because my veins aren't that great at the moment, I scheduled into the hospital to get a portacath installed. And what that is, without trying to be too gross, they install like a thing under your skin which connects to your main artery. And what it means is they can just plug a needle into it, and then there can be IV vitamin infusions or chemo or immunotherapy. They can do all that kind of stuff without stressing veins out and all that kind of stuff. So it makes the administration of drugs a lot easier. So I got that with an open mind of possibly starting chemo and immunotherapy. But as the weeks came forward, I just started having no peace about it at all. And in fact, I was having quite bad nightmares. And so I decided to basically put it on hold. So somewhere around the beginning of February, I wrote an email to the haematologist, which is a blood cancer specialist, and said, look, I'm putting things on hold for the time being, and I'll be back in touch in a few months. And they didn't agree with the decision, but that's just where things were at. Okay, so come February the 13th, what I was finding was when I was sleeping on my right side, I was getting a very strange wheezing sound, and I don't know, something like a bubbling or a popping sound, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I wasn't in pain at all. So I had my son take me down to the emergency department at the local hospital just to get checked to make sure everything was okay. So within the hours that followed, I found out I had a collapsed right lung and nearly 3 litres of fluid on my thoracic wall where the lungs sit. So I spent a week in hospital there and basically getting that all drained. So, but by Thursday, the day before I was due to check out, the lung specialist came and said to me, look, you need to stay and start chemotherapy immediately. And again, there was that fear and things like that going on. I said, look, I'm not ready to do it yet. And he just looked at me and said, if you don't do it, you're going to die. And he had all of his, I guess his trainee doctors with him, and I just asked that they could be excused so he and I could have a chat, which we did. And I just said to him, look, I want to try and keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm not ready for chemo, basically. And he said, well, look, it's the wrong decision. And what surprised me, he got up and he looked at me and said, I'm going to have you psychiatrically assessed. And I said, no, I don't want that, and I do not consent. He didn't storm out the room, but he went out pretty annoyed. About 45 minutes later, 2 psychiatrists turned up to my room and started, well, not grilling me, but really started going down a path I wasn't feeling comfortable with. That lasted about 45 minutes. They left. And then a nurse came into my room and transported me from that room into a room of my own and informed me that the man I'd been sharing the room with was COVID positive. So I went into that new room, and overnight I started feeling a bit scratchy in the throat and just a bit lousy, to be honest with you. I asked if I could get a rapid antigen test the following morning, and I guess because I was going to be checking out, that just didn't happen. The lung doctor came in and said, look, good news, the leakage has stopped now, so we're going to take the tube out of your ribs and we'll be able to take it out. He said, I guess you've decided you want to go home today? And I said, yes, I want that very much. And he said, well, look, you're going to have to sign a discharge against medical advice. I've still got it on the desk here. And the terms of that stated that I would probably experience deterioration, worsening condition, and death, basically the words. So I left the hospital. I was feeling a bit off, and my daughter came over and we did a rapid antigen test and found out I was positive for COVID. And then that meant I had another week or two of recovery of that. And on top of that, my wife got it. She's still unwell to this day as of the 2nd of March. And my two boys got it as well. So we've been through the ringer a little bit. On the day I checked out, I got an email from my haematologist. I'm not going to mention the person's name because that's not important. She's no longer my haematologist, and that was by her choice, not mine. But I'll read the part of the email. I understand you are discharging against medical advice from hospital. Unfortunately, the effusion is likely to reoccur in a week or so. Even with steroids, it's a very serious development. If you do not plan on commencing chemotherapy, I would recommend we ask palliative care to become involved at this stage. You will develop progressive shortness of breath. Your life expectancy without treatment is now weeks. So that was back on the 17th of February 2023. Then on the 21st of February, I got another email from my now former haematologist saying the following. With regard to your decision not to pursue active treatment for your lymphoma, the decision is absolutely yours. However, it's not a decision I support. I feel we no longer have a therapeutic relationship, and I think it's best not to continue as one of your treating doctors. In the event of any acute deterioration, emergency services will transport you to hospital, given your home address. I will endeavour to transfer your care to colleagues with admitting rights to your hospital. If you prefer a referral, I will link you there. Based on your plans, I can arrange to have palliative care service if not accepting treatment, or a haematologist of your choice. And she went on to say, I've not arranged imaging because part of the CT scans I had in hospital recommended an MRI scan, which they didn't give me. And when I spoke to the lung specialist about that, he said, well, look, you're basically on your own now. Take that up with your specialist. And look, I'm not criticising the healthcare system here in Australia, but we've got it pretty good. I just found that my experience with what happened, they were probably doing what they're trained to do, but it wasn't a really awesome experience for me. Anyway, the other thing was I was also prescribed very heavy doses of a drug called prednisone, and I'm currently weaning my way off that. Obviously they've given it to me for a therapeutic reason to try and stop this hole in the thoracic wall of my rib cage. But it's done a lot of really horrible things. I've had insomnia now for weeks. My ankles and feet have swollen up like balloons, and it's just done all sorts of nasty things. But that's a little bit of all the background. I just want to go through now and really acknowledge there's no particular order. I've copied and pasted this, and by this time that I'm reading this, there probably has been more support from donors. But I will do further video updates so that people can be acknowledged for the support they've given, because by the support you've given, it means that I can get ongoing treatment naturally. And even if it does mean I end up having to do chemotherapy and immunotherapy, what it means is that I can keep my immune system strong in between treatments. So let me just go through. I'd like to thank Anonymous for a $100 gift, Keisha Chimpota for a $100 gift, Friends from Coughs $600 gift, Anonymous for $20 gift, Anonymous for $200 gift, Rob Sanassi for a $100 gift, Anonymous for $500 gift, Raji Sharma for $200, thank you. Barbara Zeta for $100, EA for $50, Mike Kelly for $50, Rebecca Abani for $200, Kane Hopkins $1,000, John Aquilina for $200, Bruce Gow for $200, Joe Thompson for $200, Anonymous for $100, Anonymous for $5, Anonymous for $300, Irina Ragumov, sorry if I spelt your name wrong, for $20, John Zeta for $200, Chad Michael Lawson for $50, thanks mate, Julia Yuski, $20, Anonymous $20, Anonymous $100, Anonymous $100, Antonio Cosatino $50, Cal $100, thanks mate, I really appreciate that. Being all the way over in Bulgaria. Callum Sherwood $111, Spiro $200, Spiro again $300, Ted Cubis $200, thanks mate, all the way from America. Gene Millam $100 from America, thanks mate. John Rayner, John, you're a dude, man. John's an Australian guy living over in Colombia. He's a very gifted public speaker. He's beat cancer as well through natural protocols. I'll put a link down in the video section. John's also an expert crypto scalp trader. I don't know if he's taking on mentors, but there's a link to his Telegram group for anyone that's interested in that kind of thing. Anonymous for $25, Anonymous for $20, Paul Folks for $50. Thanks, Paul from New Zealand. Anonymous for $150, Anonymous for $20, Sean Hancock for $30, Emma Dibb for $100, Harley Moxon for $100. Thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. Steve and Deborah Robleski, friends from the Philippines, $500. Thanks, guys. Luke Brown, $200. Thanks, mate. Michael Stileman for $100. Ed Dale, mate, you got a text from me and we hadn't spoken in years. Mate, I appreciate it a lot. You donated $100 and it's made a big difference to me. Thanks so much. Dave Edwards, a friend of my son's, $100. Wow. David Devey, he was a youth group leader for my son, Keith, and he was one of the second or third person to donate. He donated $5,000. Mate, I can't thank you enough. That's gone such a long way to my treatment. Jorg Marks, $60. Anonymous, $100. Christopher Barks, $50. Anonymous, $10. Larry Sherman from America, $300. Thanks, mate. Amy Mikulev, $50. Amin, I think I know who you are. Amin, $300. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Lily Moore, $250. Thanks, Lily. Lily goes to our church. Her and her husband, $100. Richard was friends with my children at the school they went to years ago. Thanks, Richard. And Rohit George. I think Rohit worked with my daughter at one stage and he was the very first person to donate. Mate, thanks for that. I've never met you, but thanks. So I wanted to be able to put up photos of the team at Be Into Health and, just show how awesome they are and, a photo of the team and also one of me with getting an IV infusion. But I've never made a video before, so I'm sure I'll be able to put something up on the GoFundMe campaign or something page just so you can see who they are and who it is that's helping me. Okay, next one. Like I said, this isn't a very scripted video. I'm just doing this from the heart. This is just a testimony about who I am and what God's done in my life. Like I said at the beginning, God's my healer. I know God can do instant miracles. He can also do progressive miracles, and he can also use natural and mainstream medicine to do all that as well. So I'm very open to how God sees this all play out. And this video is never going to be a call to evangelize people to become Christians or anything like that, but I just wanted to share with you a few things. If you're a person that is wondering what life's all about, especially the way the world's gone over the last few years, I saw the world change ever since that 9/11 disaster, but more recently with COVID. The world just has changed. It's become a really weird place. COVID obviously is something that people got sick with, but the biggest disease I saw was division between people who would ordinarily be friends with each other having differences about what they thought this virus was all about. And just the whole world has gone crazy. Wars and just really bad stuff going on. And you might have found yourself in a place where you're thinking, what's it all about? Well, if you find you've got a void in your heart, all I can say to you is that what Jesus Christ has done in my life, he's really filled the void in my life, to the point where I just have this peace and assurance that if anything happens to me, whether it's from this disease or I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I know that I'm going to be in a great place for eternity with him and with God. So I haven't really done anything here that much about telling people about God. But for me, being a follower of Jesus Christ is not about going to church or organised religion. That's not what it is. I remember there was a Christian singer years and years ago called Keith Green, and he said, going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than going to McDonald's makes you a hamburger. And there's so much truth to that. Being a Christian is just being one-on-one with your Creator. On a daily basis, you talk to him, you communicate with him, and as time develops, you get this, call it an intuition, or you get this still small voice where you just feel that you've got this confidence in being guided on a day-to-day basis. So if you ever wanted to become a Christian and have Jesus come into your life, the only thing you need to do is acknowledge that, you need him. You're a sinner and that you need a saviour. That's as basic as it gets. In the bottom of the video, for people that aren't in Australia, I put links to jdfarag.org, and there's another link to jdfarag.org/ABCs. And that's a simple presentation to explain how simple it is. There's no strings attached. You don't join up to a church. There's nobody twisting your arm to give money or anything like that. It's just you and God and accepting Jesus as your personal Lord and Saviour. I wouldn't do this justice myself. My pastor, Pastor Bob Cotton, he's the most solid bloke you'll ever come across. Whether you're from an international part where you've donated or even here in Australia, I'm sure Pastor Bob won't mind me giving out his phone number because he is a solid guy and he just loves God with all of his heart. If you're calling from international, you call him on 61-418-664-498. And if you're calling from Australia, it's just 0418-664-498. He's the sort of guy that gives you the time of day. And if you've got questions about God, he's not going to try and twist your arm because there's no point doing that. Unless you feel you have a need, there's no point in trying to convince you to do otherwise. Bob's one of the most awesome people I've ever met. He's down to earth, he cares about people. And he's been on this journey with me from day one. In fact, when I found out about the cancer, I'd only known Bob for about 3 weeks. We'd only just started going to his church. And like I said, the day that he called me, he said, look, we're going to drive down and pray for you tonight. And we'll have communion together and anoint you with oil. And I said, Bob, mate, that's 2 hours away. And he said, yeah, the problem is. And him and another guy called Luke, who's a solid bloke too, and he's helped me with a few things recently with transport and that. They came down. It had such an impact on our family. In fact, one of our boys was so impressed. He said, when are you going to the church next? And I said, well, we're going on Sunday. And he said, I want to come. And he came along for a few weeks, and then he stood up and made a decision for Christ as well. That's the sort of impact Bob had on him. Like I said, they drove 2 hours to our place. Then they stayed for about 40 minutes. They did all the things that they said they would do. They got in the car and drove 2 hours home again. That's the kind of people these people are at Maitland Christian Church. They're very solid, caring people. And adding to that, since that time, he's supported our family like emotionally, spiritually. And in recent times, he's even put credits on where we buy our fruit and vegetables and meat and things like that. And look, I just can't get over how awesome this guy is. But I wanted to mention him because he's been a big part of this journey with me. And we're both believing for a miracle at the end of this, that I'll be cancer-free and full of health. And, that I'll get a bit more, strength in my bones. I've started to get a bit bony now. And those that have known me for a long time, they used to refer to me as Big D or Big Dow. And that's not only because I'm 6'4", but I just carry a lot of weight. Now, what's the closing statement? Yeah, so I told you all of that about Bob because he loves people, he loves Jesus, and he's just somebody you should get to know. So, look, thanks for watching this video. I'll endeavour to do updates every couple of weeks just to let you know where I'm at, when I've got updated scans or when I know what sort of treatment options I'm doing and all that sort of stuff. I am actually going to be meeting with an integrative doctor today who they specialise in doing genostic testing in bloods to see, well, they can do a lot of things. They can see how you got the cancer and what the cancer is doing, and adding to that what the best treatment options are, be it alternate, complementary and traditional combined, so that they can all work well together to beat this thing. So look, none of you will ever really know the impact that you've had with the support that you've given to myself and my family. Oh, sorry, there's one more, and they chose to be anonymous, but I'll just call them S and C. They got in touch with me via text when they found out about the cancer, and they gave a very sizable donation, not through GoFundMe, but directly to our bank account. And it was, yeah, it was big, and it's helped us a lot. So none of you will ever know this side of eternity what you've done for us, but I just wanted you to know that we appreciate it very, very much. And I just wanted to make this video, and until today, you can still tell I've got a pretty scratchy voice, but I haven't been able to talk that well. So today's the first time I can actually string a few sentences together and give you this update. So thanks again, and let's hope this video works. Thanks.